Howdy peeps, so we're doing well. So this video, I've got much time on it, which is good. It will make me hurry up, hopefully. At least that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping for, anyway. A couple of things that I just sort of had a few thoughts on recently. Obviously, I've done quite a few videos this last week, and my most recent one being the conclusion to the tarring brush. I've actually got a few videos to upload. And again, it comes down to this thing, and I've always sort of said it as a content creator, when you're talking about well, the sort of state of society now, and this versus that, in particular, the whole women versus men thing, which unfortunately is a thing, and it's ironic. It really is ironic. You know, the way things are dealt with, you know, that thing of, you know, that it's, when I say it's about superior, the whole girl power advocacy being about having superiority, it means that they get the final say and decision in everything, regardless of whether you agree with it or not. And if you don't agree with it, then you're just a woman-hating, misogynistic pig, right? Because there's nothing better that can make someone make you agree or like you more as an individual, other than calling them names. I mean, it's always worked fantastically throughout history. That's why we've never had any wars, and people, you know, don't get into fights. You know, this is a clown world that we're living in. They don't see it as being a problem. But anyway, one of the topics that I did want to cover is that obviously I watch quite a few other channels on YouTube, and this video is more of a sort of a reach out, I suppose, to Pure Male, whereas he's been going through a bit of issue. Now, Pure Male he was uploading videos at a time when I was going through a real shit time with an ex. And obviously it was the kind of something, it wasn't a case of like, I was starting to learn more about psychology and personality, air quotes, disorders. And if you don't want to be tied with having a personality disorder, then maybe you should just regard yourself as being an asshole. Maybe that's a thing, you know. Amber Heard, don't have to say much else. But anyway, he was uploading all these videos on his borderline / narcissistic ex-girlfriend, and that came at a time when, I've got to say, I needed it most, and there wasn't a great deal available out on the internet regarding what you actually go through. You know, it's very easy for anyone to say, oh, they're this or they're that, but you might not necessarily be aware of the dynamics of that relationship and the toxicity, and more importantly, what you go through. And this is regardless of whether you're a guy or a girl watching this. It doesn't matter. It's, the dynamic is always the same, you know. And then I sort of got to thinking, and this is something that I said before, it's like, unfortunately, we've got this real, like, as people, men and women alike, when you're subject to these situations and you end up in a relationship with someone that is what we would consider toxic, it's amazing the lengths that the mind will go to in order to avoid the red flags, you know. Now, I say that because in his video, whereas he's not necessarily, he's had a few issues recently. He's been involved with another girl, and he's been describing how he has caused her some elements of what we refer to as narcissistic injury. And I kind of find it surprising in a way, or maybe it's just that it's how he's relating back to with what he's gone through before. But from the description that he's given, he's pretty much kind of saying in a roundabout kind of way without saying it, is that the girlfriend that he's had, or if you're watching, you've had, is showing all the signs of having a form of disorder, one way or the other. You know, the constant jealousy, the this, the that. You know, he starts working out. She'll get the ump. She'll start getting annoyed that he's getting the ump, and then he starts relating to her friends and what they are like. And I think, if I recall correctly, open to correction, how he was seeing certain toxic elements in her friends, and so with that he was building up his own status and getting himself back on track, and his girlfriend didn't like it. She was getting the ump. Now there's a couple of things you could argue for. It's like, well, maybe it's an abandonment issue thing, right? And hear me out, is because, you know, when you're in a relationship, you know, you're supposed to be seen as being on a level. So you're supposed to be keeping up with each other. Like, as soon as that dynamic changes, and it's down to a personal choice, in this case he started working out, he started bettering himself, you know, to become better within himself, more healthy, mentally, physically, and all of that. And the knock-on effect was she'd start getting the ump, she'd get jealous. And I sort of that, and as I watched the video, I'll throw a link in the description. I actually give him a shout out as well. Obviously it's Pure Male, that's the name of his channel. And it's that thing, and I've always sort of said it. It's like, well, we will. Is it that we tend to go for these people? Like, are we just gluttons for the punishment or something? Like, are we the ones that are a little bit cuckoo as well? We're like, oh yeah, and it's not that he's. I don't see it as he's jumped in and he's like trying to save her from something. I don't think that was the case. But it's just like he did another video on like medications and mixing it with alcohol, and they were unaware of the consequences of that. Needless to say that fired up all sorts of traumatic events, mostly arguments from what he was saying. But again, I mean, sometimes these medications can just like make a situation worse. They can put them more at the forefront. They can make a person more sensitive and less mindful and less thoughtful as to how they're actually conversing with another person. You know, medications, I mean, this is going to make me sound like I'm totally anti-medication. I'm actually not. I'm just pointing out that it's subjective to the individual. This is why when you do go to the doctors and you need a medication for something, the doctor needs to do an assessment on the individual taking it, but they don't always take everything into consideration, like what they do in their downtime, in this case having a few beers. But if the doctor's unaware of that, I mean, sure, a lot of the time it does says read the label and the instructions, and it's like, have you ever read the instructions and the side effects of some of the meds that are out there? It's like, sometimes it is literally a case of, it's like, you read through it and it's like, my God, the cure is actually worse than the issue, the symptom. Do you know what I mean? It's like, fucking wow. But again, it's experimental, and look, the pharmaceutical companies have to put it on there so that they can't get sued. You know, so that you're aware of what it might do, and you know, you can start picking out certain things if you're having adverse effects. But I think a lot of the time, by the time you've noticed the adverse effects, it's too late. You know, things have already started happening in the real world, and it gets difficult, you know, to like rationalise and reason with things. And you could argue the same for someone that's been in a toxic relationship. You know, like you get, and you do kind of get stuck on a particular mindset in that sense. In whereas he's describing like he might have caused his girlfriend a what we refer to as a narcissistic injury. You know, you say something bad about them or something that they consider bad, it might not actually be that bad, but they will blow it out of proportion, and then you have a problem. Then you have to try and chill someone out from a level where their emotions have just gotten the better of them. And that is a very difficult thing to do in some cases. You know, sometimes you've got to leave these people alone for a good few hours. But even in doing that, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because, you know, it's that typical, the description as by the debt court case. It's like you want to help them, but you can't be there. You can't stay with them because they're going mental, doing crazy shit. And you don't want to leave them for two reasons. One, you don't want to leave them on their own, because A, they might not be in a good place. B, leaving them might put them in a worse situation. But staying with them makes it worse as well, because you're still there to catch the fodder, right? All their emotional rage and all of that. And I did think it was a bit sort of interesting how, well, it's not interesting, I think it's fucking tragic in a lot of cases. And whereas a lot of the time when you've been in one toxic relationship, I don't know if it's a case of you notice that more because it's something it's an eye-opener. When you're in these relationships, it's an actual eye-opener. And look, it'd be quite easy to walk around and say, oh, well, this person's this and that person's the other, and you know, you can just go around throwing labels on people and make yourself feel better or something. And, you know, sometimes it might have a point, it might be a thing. But it seems to me that once you've been involved with someone toxic, it's like your tolerance levels go, you know, they become higher. So in other words, you will put up with more BS from someone instead of accepting less, because, you know, you try and be sympathetic towards them, and maybe it's someone that you're attracted to, which, you know, attraction does all sorts of stuff to screw with a man's mind. You know, you can get a gorgeous looking girl and she can be toxic AF, right? And you will still convince yourself, you will still try and convince yourself that you can help her and you can do this and you can do it, and you can't. You can't. And, you know, like I said, it's not anyone's job. It's about personal responsibility. You know, it's your responsibility to make sure that you don't get involved with these people because you know the outcome, or you know the possibilities for outcome. Worst case scenario, you might end up getting yourself offed. You know, whether it's your choice or someone else's, or you can end up in a police cell for something that you probably didn't do. Then again, the way these people react, sometimes they can push a guy to doing these things. But anyway, look, just a little something I wanted to talk about. Thoughts, comments, and opinions, feel free to jot them down. Till the next one, stay cool, stay free, peace out.